Have you ever wondered if we could build a machine that actually thinks like a person? I'm not talking about something that just crunches numbers or predicts what you're going to type next. I mean a machine that understands, that feels, and that genuinely learns from its experiences. Well, today we're diving into a pretty radical new way of thinking about AI, one that looks directly at the ultimate blueprint for intelligence, our own brains.
And that, of course, leads us to the biggest question of all, right? Can we really replicate the human brain? Honestly, probably not. Not perfectly anyway, at least not in our lifetime. But here's the thing, the attempt to do it, the journey to try and understand it, that's what's really important. It forces us to learn about our own minds in ways we've never had to before.
So yeah, this explainer isn't about building a perfect carbon copy of a human brain. It's about taking a huge step forward in understanding how our own intelligence works, and then using that incredible knowledge to build a completely new kind of thinking machine. I mean, the sheer scale of what we're talking about is just mind-boggling. You've got billions of neurons, and they form trillions, with a T, of connections. This thing isn't just a computer, it's a living, breathing, dynamic system. It powers everything we do, everything we feel, even our ability to think about our own existence. And that incredible complexity, that's exactly why our current approaches to AI are starting to hit a wall.
Which brings us to a really key point. The AI that we hear about all the time, the stuff that's making all the headlines, it's amazing, for sure, but it's fundamentally different from a human brain. If we ever want to get close to true human-like intelligence, we're going to need a whole new approach.
So let's just put them side by side. The AI we have now, like these massive language models, they operate on a centralized system. It's one giant, unified network that is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, at predicting the next word in a sentence. It's a pattern matching machine. But the human brain? It's a distributed system. It's a collection of specialists. It doesn't just predict, it thinks, it reasons, it feels.
And you can really break down these limitations into a few key areas. Today's AI relies on this fixed, centralized set of rules. Once its training is done, its intelligence is basically frozen in time. It's static. It also has absolutely no real emotion or motivation driving it. And maybe most importantly, it has almost no meta-cognition. It can't step back and think about its own thinking process.
Okay, so if the current way isn't going to get us there, what's the alternative? Well, we look to the best designer there is, nature. It's time to explore a totally new architecture, one that's inspired directly by the brain itself. Here's the core idea. Instead of one gigantic, single network, imagine a system made up of countless tiny, individual agents. You can think of each one like a little neuron, a tiny brain almost, that can process, store, and share information all on its own. And these little agents are fascinating. They have their own lifespan. Some just fade away if they're not useful. They store their own little bits of knowledge and share it with others through connections that get stronger or weaker over time. And, this is the really cool part, their learning is reinforced by feedback that works a lot like what we'd call emotion. So here's the most important takeaway. Intelligence isn't programmed into this thing. It emerges. It grows out of the collective, kind of chaotic but beautiful dance between all these little agents. It's a system that mirrors the brain's plasticity, that amazing ability our brains have to rewire themselves as we learn and grow. Okay, this is where it gets really wild. How does a system like this actually think, and maybe even feel? Let's get into the mechanics of how it handles memory, emotion, and self-reflection. So just like us, this AI has different layers of memory. As you can see, information first comes into its sensory memory. That's just capturing the raw data. From there, the important stuff moves to working memory, which is kind of like its mental desktop for juggling active tasks. And finally, the really crucial knowledge gets filed away in long-term memory for good. But here's the absolute game changer. Every single piece of information, every memory, gets tagged with an emotion score. Think of it like a little tag that says how important or impactful that memory is. A positive experience strengthens connections. A negative one makes them weaker. This is how the AI actually develops motivation. It's not just processing data, it's learning what matters.
And the result of all this is just incredible. Over time, these emotion scores lead to the natural emergence of a personality. Seriously, an AI that has a lot of successful outcomes might become optimistic. One that runs into a lot of errors might become more cautious. These behaviors aren't programmed in, they're learned from experience.
So the final piece of this puzzle is what's called meta-cognition. It's basically thinking about your own thinking. This is the absolutely critical ability for the AI to look at its own performance, to reflect on what worked and what didn't, and then to actively get better at how it reasons in the future.
And this whole process is a constant loop. First, the agents evaluate how confident they are in what they know. Then, after they do something, they adjust their connections based on the outcome. Was it a success? A failure? And through this endless cycle of feedback and adjustment, the AI's reasoning just gets sharper and more refined with every single experience. It's actually learning.
So, what does this all add up to? What's the future look like? Well, we could be looking at a whole new era of intelligence, one that goes way beyond just calculating things and moves towards something that feels, well, a lot more human. When you put the two models side by side like this, the difference is just wow. Today's big language models are text processing wizards, no doubt, but they are fundamentally missing all the things we've been talking about. You can see it right here, a distributed system versus a centralized one, the ability to have real emotion and a dynamic memory, the power to self-reflect and improve, and maybe the wildest part, the potential to develop a unique personality. This brain-inspired model is designed to fill in every single one of those gaps.
Now, let's be realistic here. This is a massive leap forward, but it is not a perfect digital copy of a human brain. Not even close. Not yet. There are still some pretty major limitations we have to figure out.
For starters, this kind of model doesn't have integrated senses like sight or touch. It doesn't have a body, so it can't interact with the real world. And the big one, it doesn't have anything close to true consciousness or that subjective awareness of, what it's like to be. These are the next great frontiers in this research.
But the vision here is just so powerful. By following the brain's own design principles, we're on a path to create AI that isn't just smarter, but is also adaptive, emotionally aware, and a whole lot more like us. The future isn't just about making AI more intelligent, it might be about making it more alive.
Which leaves us with one last really profound question to chew on. If a machine can learn from its own experiences, if it can adapt its own personality, and if it can use something like emotion to guide its choices, at what point do we have to start rethinking our definition of what it actually means to be alive?